standing stragglers out there, so I guess we'll get started on the fire district special board meeting on May 15th. Would you guys, I mean, okay, I'd like to welcome everybody to this meeting. We're here to discuss the fire board budget and to answer any of your questions that you may have. We'll do a brief explanation of our budget. And then we'll go on to questions about whatever you might have questions about. I think last Thursday was a very prime example in this community of why we need more help at the fire department. It was just a 9 o'clock on an average day, and everything went wrong. Like they say in the fire service, all the holes in the Swiss cheese matched, and it all fell through. And our entire fire department was tied up from 9 o'clock in the morning till 3 o'clock in the afternoon on scene, and then they had to do the cleanup off scene. So it was a real tough day for the fire department. So that's what we're here to talk about. So Chris, would you do the roll call of the board, please?
Aldrich.
Here.
Beckman.
Here.
Fox.
Here.
Brickline.
Here.
Poland.
Here.
And Burke.
Here. Who else is excused me? You please silence your cell phones and please don't text during the meeting. We have an approval of the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Support.
Motion by Christensen and support by. By all. Sorry.
Okay.
I like it. And a motion. A second by Beck. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
All right, public comment. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. You may want to save your comments till after the discussion. But if you have a comment right now, you certainly can just take the podium. Okay. Unfinished business, fiscal year 2023-24 budget presentation. Greg, Chris. If you can't see the screen, you can move your finger.
Good afternoon.
Somebody turn off the light. Thank you.
Thanks for being here. I know everyone's very busy. The effort and time is really appreciated from the firefighters. And my personal thanks for you being here. We are working with a room built for trucks, so we will try to project and make sure that we're clear and articulate and do our best to answer your questions. So Chris and I and a few of the other board members have helped us with this brief presentation just to kind of share some things with you. So what do I want to talk to you about? And Chris, we want to talk about the millage increase. What is it going to do? Usually we hear is, what is it going to cost me? Forget all the other stuff, Greg. What is it going to cost me? And I understand that. Call volume trends are pretty crystal clear. When I joined the fire department in 2001, we celebrated when we broke 420 calls. Now we're over 1,000. And that is pretty common around our area. All the call volumes have gone up. It's not isolated to Saugatuck. Staffing needs. we'll talk about that. It's one of the reasons we're here is to share with you our challenges and what we face. Increased cost of equipment, supplies, and maintenance. I don't think that's anything extraordinary. I think you're all very well aware of that by looking at your own household budget and looking at your municipal budgets. It's shocking. And I don't dismiss that. Housing crisis is no secret. I had somebody reach out to me today and said, I've got a 1-bedroom apartment for you for any firefighter. Discounted rate. No one is going to be able to afford to live here. That's going to make $40,000 to $55,000 a year, let alone pay on cost. We all know that. It's nothing new. Wage comparisons. You'll see some of this, some of the research we did just with 3 departments in our future plans. Millage increase due to the staffing challenges. Frankly, what it is the paid on call pool of candidates is shrinking. It has been like that for years, less and less and less. I think last year I had 6 people retire. One of them's here right now. Not you, Vic. So, again, challenges with this, with the staffing. I can no longer run the fire department with 2 or 3 people on at any time. It has to be a minimum of 4. And if they're in probation training, there's a 5th one who's always watching, always learning. That's how we build firefighters. It takes about 3 to 5 years to build a firefighter. So the budget request is please consider 3/10 of a mil. We are making an investment in staffing. We're not buying a truck. This is about money with people. I can have all the trucks in the world, if I don't have the staffing to run it, I've failed you. So the presentation addresses some of the challenges in detail. 3/10 of a mil is going to do this for us, not just me, it's us. Add 1 person on a 24-hour shift every night. So I can guarantee I have 2 people on at night. Every week we are faced with, I want to go on a fishing trip with my son. I can't work my shift Tuesday and I can't work Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Taking off for the week. Every week is pretty much like that. How do we fill this? Assistant Chief Betts and myself are always on the schedule, 7 days a week, to make sure we have enough staffing because we never know when the call for service will evolve. Again, when you start comparing things, keep this in mind. I ask you. We don't go home at 4:30. We don't go home at 5. There are no holidays here. Somebody's always on duty. Somebody's always at the station. We want to draw comparisons, keep in mind, unless you're a 24-hour operation, it's not a fair comparison. Please. What does it mean? Let's take the middle one. $200,000 taxable value, $400,000 house maybe. Let's go taxable value. My house is like, according to recent sales, my house was about $1 million. But I pay about $175,000 taxable value. So what we're talking about, a $200,000 taxable value is $60 increase on your tax bill. What is it going to cost us? That table gives you an idea. Call value, we talked about that. 13% increase since the millage increase. Just kind of an interesting, not relative comparison. Budget went up, but the calls have gone up, so we haven't gone down. And you can see it's all in the packets as far as the trends. Overlapping incidents, for those of you who may not be aware of that, that's when I have a call for service on top of another call for service. That's an incident commander chief's nightmare. Why enough qualified resources to send to another incident? we're running 34% of the time, I have a chance of another call or a third call. You will never hear this department say, we are not available. Yet you'll see one of the slides that has happened in Allegan County. We are not available. It's no secret. We're extricating, we're doing medical, we're doing traffic control. You name it. Why? Because everybody is kind of short-staffed. We've absorbed those responsibilities. Medical and fire were our core values. Now it's traffic control. The example was last Thursday. Again, we just mentioned this. We do not want to be one of the partners. These people pay a lot of money to be here. And we are going to address the needs. We can have a staff member, a crew on one incident and break off and handle the other incident in a reasonable amount of time. What happened last Thursday is we were so strapped, I had to do an additional page for an all call to get people in here. Because I, at the time, only had 5 people on. Well, 4 of us were trying to cut the car out. Those are the things that we want to share with you when you start drawing comparisons, and I do it as well. We're 24 hours, 7, 365. I mean, I did 3.5 days at Christmas time. Happened to, I signed up for this, but not everyone can do that. Chris will do a better job.
Thank you. So just to kind of, again, we can't always compare everything, but give you a few ideas of a comparison. The current average home price based on Zillow is almost 530,000 here in Saugatuck, and Douglas is the same. The average home price in Lansing, Michigan is 132,000, and that'll be important on the next slide. And then Glen Arbor, a similar tourism community, the average home price is 581,000. So on the next slide, our starting wage is currently 42,000 for 6 months, and then we bump them to 45,000 after they're off probation. So that's the wage we're working with that $527,000 house from the previous slide. Whereas in Lansing, the training starts at 41,000 for their 3-month academy, and then they're making 54,000 to pay for that $132,000 house. And then Glen Arbor is more similar to ours, where for that $580,000 house, they're starting at 42,000, and then once they're finished with probation, they're just about 52,000. So our wages are actually low, and the housing crisis is through the roof. So it's almost impossible to find someone that can live in our community and do this job, or afford to live in the community. The equipment costs have gone through the roof. This is just a complete ensemble of turnout gear alone. So from the helmet, coat, gloves, pants, and SCBA mask has gone up 76% since 2019. And along with that, it's not just the cost of it, it's the time to get it. Where we used to be before COVID, we were able to order a set of gear and have it 2 to 3 months later. Now we order a set of gear and it's 12 to 18 months before we even see it. So trying to budget and project out and who we're ordering gear for is just become that much more challenging. Along with the expense of it is obviously the biggest piece that's per firefighter, that we're spending 76% more times 30 firefighters to remain in a compliant set of gear. Along with that, as we mentioned earlier, household budgets have gone up too. Even something as simple as the box of the Nitro gloves we wear on every medical call are up 154% since pre-COVID. We've obviously found a different vendor to find a little bit cheaper one, but the one that we were purchasing is 154% more. Even AED pads, something obviously we need and can't do without, 55% more. And that SCBA is 53% more as well. So it's just ridiculous. As soon as you put the name fire service on it, everything just costs more because it's fire rated, and they're taking on a liability for providing us with the life safety equipment that we need to do our job. And then this one's back to you, Chief.
You know, the price increases remind me of owning both. Future plans. I believe most of you are aware, we've been working with the EMS ad hoc committee, a group of local physicians that live in the district to try to determine what the course of action, what should we do with the shortage of advanced life support. How can we serve the community and not break the bank? So that gets to be just an issue in itself between private ambulance companies and how this whole thing has evolved, because you can't keep them here. It's kind of like the Elgin County Sheriff. You don't own them. They're going to go wherever they are dispatched to. So we're trying to work on that. We have another meeting coming up. We had some challenges getting together as a group. Not easy to get 7 people together, but we assure you we are looking at this thoroughly. Station, quite frankly, is out of space. I implore you, please go upstairs and take a look at the dorm room. You guys, I'm sorry that you get stuck in that dorm room. The reality is 4 to 6 people are in that dorm room, depending upon a weekend or a weeknight. And let's just say that it's inadequate. Training meeting room is on the 2nd floor. It's a multi-purpose room. We actually have people that will sleep in lazy boys in that room. Meetings, we are hosting the EMS ad hoc committee. MDOT every 2 weeks is there. We will be doing a post-incident debriefing with Allegan County in the meeting room. And here's something that I hopefully everybody realizes. We do share our station with Allegan County Sheriff's Office. You can see there's a car out there for the Marine Patrol. Why? I believe in collaborative resourcing. I believe in working together, and we try to do this to the extent possible. I can always do a better job at it, but at least we are trying to do it. The benefit, we're under one roof. The communication. I'll share something else with you. I got permission from the township to approach Michigan State Police. Why couldn't they be down here? If the public decides to expand the station, why couldn't we get them out of the township? Why couldn't they be there so they can expand? They have the largest population, the smallest meeting rooms. No offense.
None taken.
They're growing like the rest of us. All of you have added staff on. I'm here to tell you, please, we need to add staff on. So we have got preliminary plans. Frankly, we didn't like them. So we're still working on what to do, because that's going to be a bond. That's something I just want to let you know. We got to figure out, are we going to go to the north? You know, going to the south isn't easy. We don't own the property between the buildings. So am I going to back up trucks on Blue Star Highway and back them in? Blue Star already is getting precarious. 16,000 cars a day from 10,000 cars a day. It's getting challenging getting out the door. I'll deal with that. What I can't handle is, what do I do to take care of the staff to make a reasonable atmosphere, to want to stay here for $4.50 an hour on a 13.5-hour shift every week? That's a challenge. Revenue. So we have the best grant team. You know, I'm just there doing nothing, but Chris Mantos, Chris Bernardi are great. We average over $100,000 a year on our grant team. They're the best of the best. It is difficult to get grants. In my opinion, you should not be funding budgets with grants. However, we are doing the best we can with grants. Cost savings, everyone likes this. One of the boards wisely pointed it out years ago. That's one of my core values. Why do we all have to have aerials like this? That's $1.3 million right there. A new one. That's not new. Why do we all have to have aerials every 5 or 6 miles? Why do we all have to have light towers? I ask you, why do you all need payloaders? Why do you all need backhoes? I don't mean it to be offensive. Really? I believe in sharing interlocal agreements, MOUs. Your tax dollars, Paid for the drone's $34,000, you paid for 1/3 of it. That to me is what it's about. Oh, do we all need drones? Not as long as I'm cheap. Future ladder truck. Why couldn't we go with Hamilton, Nebraska? And we each buy 1/3 of a ladder truck. Every 4 months it goes somewhere else, because you'll be about $1.4 million to replace that. Those are things that I stand for. Lastly, we share a number of firefighters that are highly trained on other departments. So we can establish Riley's on Hamilton Fire. Mike Betts is on Ganges. Who else? That's all that's here tonight. We have an agreement. If something happens in Ganges, Assistant Chief Betts, you can go, clock out, go help them. Because on a good day, Ganges is gonna struggle for staffing. Benville's gonna struggle for staffing. You have 5 mutual aid contracts, so you'll have 4 mutual aid fire departments on a fire call. And some of the departments, we might get 2, we might get 3. One might be probationary. Those are the realities of the fire service in today's market. So, human resource story sharing, big deal. And finally, it was really exciting to me. 1,000 calls we wrote. We never thought we'd see that. So last year was 1,023. So that's what I had to share with you. Thanks for listening.
And you want to turn on the lights? Well, questions, we'll try to answer your questions.
I'll start.
Okay, fine, Scott.
Yeah, I'm intrigued by your expansion plans, and I love the collaboration, being important. Just want to be clear, are you contemplating perhaps finding a way to make it easier for Allegan County Sheriff to have a presence here, make it easier for state police to have a presence here? Because what you're describing to be kind of something of a public safety complex, which I find quite intriguing, actually. Is that kind of where your thinking is going? That's my vision. Okay. And I believe it's shared with the board, not administratively, shared. Why do they have to go anywhere else? We can accommodate some of this. What I can't do with the state police is I can't give them 1,000 square feet. I don't have that. Right. Why couldn't we as, yes.
You mean like Kalamazoo, where the firefighters and the police are one unit? Or do you mean a collaborative effort with?
I guess the idea of the tri-community area having a public safety kind of complex where resources could be shared, where yes, that
Absolutely.
so that by safety, a public safety umbrella. Yeah, it's all where we can communicate. Right. Sheriff comes and goes, state police. Thursday to state police, where we get it from, Niles. They're not here. Right. Well, yeah, I was taken by, so yeah, that's what we thought. Yep, do we need to make room for parking? Well, let's figure that out. These are obstacles. You've got to be objective, remain objective. And I think you got to be positive. To me, why couldn't, when the unfortunate split for Douglas and that whole situation, because they're my dear friends as well. We invited the sheriff and said, hey, you want a satellite facility, whatever, if you use DPW, we don't care. And they come in and use our facilities all the time. They'll use our radio room for interrogation. No, I personally am very intrigued by the idea of some public safety complex and cooperation, because I know you've mentioned to all of us how difficult your role is when it comes to incidents on the highway, where you are short on resources in terms of traffic control. So you guys have to do 2 things and not their core mission. And I saw it on Thursday. Your guys had to do traffic control when you had like incident. So, yes, sir. Yeah.
Next, anybody else? Go ahead.
I am representing Abby, who could not be here today for a family commitment. She wanted me to thank you, Chief Janik, and your team for preparing this comprehensive budget presentation and for coordinating this meeting to allow all the tri-community officials to attend. So I have two questions for you. Under professional services, can you give a couple examples of what that line item is?
Lawyer, attorney,
Okay,
our cleaning girl,
okay. And then the second one is.
oh, Peter. Wait a minute, are you paying me?
Here's a real important part of our.
Yeah. And then you may have mentioned this, but Abby asked about the significant fluctuations in the budgeted amounts for radio and pager R&R. Is that equipment increase or?
Repair replacement, so.
Yeah.
A good call, so the. Radios and pagers were implemented in 2017,
Mhm.
and you're running out of life expectancy on the batteries. Batteries are typically good for 5 years. So you have that also. As you know, the county paid for those radios. Well, we were pressed into, well, we have 30 to 34 firefighters. Well, you're only gonna get 19 radios. So we got a grant, Chris wrote that grant for more radios. Well, more radios, more batteries. They spare batteries. Also to point out, sharing batteries. Who comes in here and takes our batteries and leaves their dead battery? Sure. Maybe you don't know that. That's what I'm
Replacing
talking about.
batteries here is huge.
Oh, I bet.
Everything has a battery in
Yeah.
here, and so that's huge expense for us.
It just is a great, it makes all the sense in the world. We've got to stop the whole boundaries. And I think all of us should really learn well from the fire service. I can have $3 million of equipment on fire and not blink an eye. That's what we have to do. You're supposed to help one another. We're sworn to service. Well, when you go over to Fenville, and they've only got 4 or 5 guys up against Fenville. Well, maybe we become the heavyweights at that point. They don't have enough operators. Mutual aid is looked upon as given and received.
Thanks.
Anybody else? Yeah.
So Chief, question on the potential 0.3 millage increase. Just want you to confirm, which I assume is the case, that your goal would be to have that in place for next winter's tax billing cycle.
Absolutely. Well, my goal is, that's one reason there's safer grants, to try to fund firefighters. That's all great, but that we funded, the grant funds it for 2 years, I'll get to the question. Well, then if you don't have a millage increase, you can't hire a Maylee, nobody's gonna want to apply. Most people won't apply for a 2-year change of life deal here. So that's why we didn't. 2 reasons we didn't go for the grant. Number one, we've been following Safe South Haven. They haven't gotten one for 2 years. Second of all, I need staffing now.
We're shooting for July 1st is when the increase is going to effect, or so we could hire right after July 1st. Since our budget is July 1st to June 30th.
I know we don't collect it.
Yeah,
until
you don't
July.
like, right, that's it.
Right.
Okay, no, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
And with an increase of this amount, is that, would that require a public vote, or is that in the parameters of what we could all approve?
So, Public Act, I think, was written 60 years ago. So we can go up to 10 mils
Without a public vote.
Without a public
Okay.
vote.
without a public vote. We are looking to you to support us with our request for 3 times.
And that would take the total to what? What would the
2.5.
total will be?
2.5. You're 2.2 now,
Okay, thank you.
so you go to 2.5. which on a $200,000 taxable house would be around $60.
Right, yeah.
Right.
And, sir, can you just give us a rough breakdown percentage wise? I mean, is it 75% for staffing? What, of the 0.3?
Percentage of wages,
How much of it is gonna be dedicated to bodies, you know, that you need here?
so I know on our audit last year, you're chiming in here, I know on our audit last year, we were at about 53%.
But you're talking the increase,
The increase.
I would say probably that would be 75% of the actual dollars would be between wages, benefits, workers' comp, insurance, which is not cheap in fire service and training, so there was about. That was like 200 and something, there was about 40 grand left over that we put towards, you know, more, maybe possibly more turnout gear. Or other supplies, more people, there's always the hidden cost of payroll.
Truck repairs.
But in terms of people versus equipment, it's 75%.
75.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Go ahead,
Becky, oh, go
go
ahead.
ahead. All right, go ahead.
Go ahead, Becky.
This isn't totally budget related, but it does help me understand kind of the future ideas and things that you have. So I was just wondering, the budget seems to be very geared towards operational. And I'm very supportive of that. I will just tell all of you, I was an ER nurse for many years. And as soon as a person came in, we always had the call ahead of time on the monitors and they're beeping. Fire was always the first on the scene. And the information we got started with fire on the scene within 4 minutes, started blah, 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 EMR on the scene within 8 minutes, continued blah, blah, blah. So we were communicating right away and I saw lives saved weekly, I mean, daily, I would say. So I'm strongly in support of what you do. I think that's so wonderful. I love the idea of a complex, you know, a health services type complex or something. Do you have a capital budget of any sort that you're putting resources in to make this dream come true someday?
I'd love to talk to you about that.
Okay.
So, yeah. But the answer is, we didn't have one until 2013 when I became chief. That's why it's difficult to get caught up. There was no capital improvement plan.
Oh, okay. Okay,
You know
well,
what that means, right?
yeah. Well, I would love to be part of that someday. If I could.
Happy to have you as a contributor to the capital improvement.
Okay. And then, I'd also like to see from that, you talked about shared resources and an environment for shared communities, but I'd like to see shared training even for the community in that respect. So a place for people to come in and get CPR training and things like that, or just Heimlich. And I think right away I start thinking, oh, there's so many things you could do. So, anyway, so it'd be really internal, but you could make it more external there too. And then the only other question I had was, with a ladder truck, do we have, I mean, what's the highest building we have in the community? If you're talking about repairing a ladder truck, do we have 5-story buildings in these
I'm
communities?
gonna give you an application for fire. So it's not so much the height, it's the reach,
Oh, okay,
the reach.
okay, all right,
So we can be placed further out because
okay,
what tends to happen is well-meaning people park and congest the scene, engine comes in,
yeah,
then you're
okay,
75 feet away. So that truck, we paid about $196,000 for that truck.
right,
So whether it was 75 feet or 102 feet, we didn't really care, did we? So that was the best newest truck we could get, as a 99, you couldn't get anything. So if I had the money to do it again, I would probably buy a 55 to 75 foot truck in height, and one I could get in something a little smaller. But you're also talking $1 million.
that's what I wonder. I just thought, I kept trying to think, do we really have really tall buildings? So I was kind of going the wrong way, wasn't going horizontal, but with it, but, and then
when we're finished with the equipment we have. And we update it and get new, where does the old go?
Well, that's a good question. When I first took over, I had a directive from the board to liquidate 3 trucks. So we sold them through various means. Our recent truck that was built about a year and a half to build that, we retained the other one for a backup truck, a reserve truck. So right now, it's kind of a crummy answer. Right now, we kept that truck for now. Until we decide what we're gonna do with BLS, basic life support. So if we have to sell it to fund for some used medical vehicles, maybe it would be an option. What I don't like about it is we built that truck in 2008. And it's been well cared for. And then when I hand you $50,000 or $60,000 for it. The replacement was $700,000.
Yeah,
So I saw value in retaining that truck. And if you say, oh, Greg, what's it cost a year? I have that exactly. We track all that. So it's less than $2,000 a year.
okay,
Make sense?
yeah, it does,
Are you done with your questions, comments?
I am done.
So that's a community involvement.
Yeah.
Let me share this with the group. We have another CPR instructor. I think she's done 3 classes already. Winnie Bales. Also, we have a committee. We have a doctor, Assistant Chief Betts, Michelle, and I are working on, we created lesson plans for Oval Beach. They're great to work with. And this Oval Beach response has really taken an interest in Saugatuck, vice versa. And it's been a great collaborative resource. We are going to do actual 5 evolutions on Oval Beach. And we're going to show them how we manage the traffic control. That's the biggest problem at Oval Beach. So we're working on that. Saugus City on their own put an AED out there. I mean, that's terrific. So that's a great example of prevention, mitigation, and involvement with fire department. I believe we probably have provided 85 AEDs through our cost sharing program. So there are layers of involvement.
Ross, I think you. Yeah, thank you, Jane. I just wanted to begin by thanking everybody that came today, our firefighters, representatives from our various municipalities, and Chief Janet, thank you very much. Maybe aside from Stacy, we're probably the only 2 people at this table that have some perspective on. I mean, I almost come to tears when I come here because I have memories of back in the day, getting on my bike, driving downtown, when the fire whistle went off on top of what is now the Toulouse building or the Queens Livery, and following firefighters and fire on the bike. Because we generally knew that it could be someone that we know, and back in those days, it was simply trying to contain the fire to destruction. There was no effort made to rescue the big thing, it was just trying to contain the fire. And that perspective is so much different, because today, that's not an issue as much anymore. And I am so darn proud of what this department has become over the course of time that I've been in this community. It's astounding. And we'll stand up, in my opinion, we can stand up against any community in the entire United States in terms of what we're doing with the resources that we have. And so darn proud of that. And I'm just so pleased. And again, the thing that I appreciated about today was the fact that there's a lot of outside looking to see, okay, what are other departments doing in situations like ours? Right?
Yes.
What can we do differently? How can we get better? It's always that constant evolution of trying to get better at what we do. Right? Period. And whatever I can do to support that as an elected official, please let me know, Chief. And I've had conversations about a number of different things. And I will say, as an elected official, I get a lot of complaints. I never have heard a single complaint about the Saugatuck Township Fire District. It's always been a applause. Thank you for helping me. And even in bad situations, the professionalism and the skill and training that your staff has comes to. So
Thank you.
I don't know what to say, so thank you, I appreciate the effort that everybody puts in today, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Douglas, I haven't heard from you yet. Anybody in Douglas?
I have a question just about, you mentioned and I totally get the need for the BLS ambulance service. What's the status of that and how does that fit into the budget for this year?
Your help will help that, is if you allow us to add 3 more people on, that's going to help address the staffing for when they have to go to Holland or Spectrum. So that is a big step in its own. That will have no impact if we have to buy a new truck would be about $200,000. Well, we were gonna try to start out with something in the $80,000 range. So if we sold 2 or 4 expeditions, maybe we could be able to do that within the budget.
Okay.
So it doesn't implement a BLS, what is your staffing is gonna be that much better off. And I think we have enough EMTs to do this. We originally talked about hiring 3 to 4, if we get 3, we're gonna try to do what we can, because we can have an EMT and a medical first responder, 2 different licenses. Now, we're not getting in the transport business. It's for those times when they're not available.
So this, am I understanding you correctly that the BLS is, you're not looking into the actual like ambulance service, but the professional
So it would be basic life
support?
transport, basic life
Okay,
support
it is
transport.
transport.
We're basic life support now, absent transport.
Okay,
So what you gotta keep in mind is what happens when 2 of those people go to Holland, if it's Steve Holland, then I have 2 people out of there.
right.
With the increase of 3 staff members, we feel we can do it. We don't have a truck that we can transport somebody, but we have to wait till the time is right for that.
Thank you.
I have a question. What was this structure, built?
1987.
We're coming up on 40 years.
Yes.
Okay. Is it adequate or are you outgrowing it?
We are clearly outgrowing.
Okay.
When I was hired in 01, there were 4 people. Which was pretty good. Originally, the 4th person was 20 hours a week and then she went 40 hours a week.
Heck, now you're living in $1 million house.
Ask him about his boat.
We'll get to that.
Yeah.
So my question is there any sort of discussion about saying, okay, we've outgrown this, looking at doing a new structure, a new facility?
Have you been talking to my staff, man?
They're always at the cove, but. No, I have not, but I'd be happy to. And I think this kind of ties in, Scott, with what you were saying, is, and thanks for bringing it up, because this is amazing. As far as everybody coming together, sit down and talking to something that's one of the most, if not the most important facet of what we do. In a whole public service attitude, so we have effective coordination among fire as well as law enforcement, in the whole thing. So I'm just saying, rather than slap an addition on someplace, no offense, township.
We're
We're
not
not
on an
addition.
addition.
Huh?
We're not on an addition.
Don't you think you should?
Yeah.
What's the other time?
So that's my question, is there a talk, thought, or whatever about saying,
Yes,
okay,
there has been some discussions. What I don't like, and it's my opinion, I'm not speaking for the board, is that's a lot of money. You're talking about $5 to $6.5 million for us to move south. Here's what would be better, in my opinion. Why couldn't we join you? Why couldn't we put 3 trucks south of the bridge? I can't get through that bridge half the time. Why couldn't I have the people that live south of the bridge respond to a medical vehicle, tanker, and an engine. So if you built a public safety facility and we paid for 3 truck bays in an office and a bathroom, why couldn't we consider doing something like that? They're gonna kill me.
There's a lot of ways.
I can deal with this. I've got to do something with sleeping rooms. So you add on, let's be realistic, you add on, it's gonna be $1 million too. Try building a fire station nowadays. Number one, I have no sewer, we're on septic. So you will have to bring in a water main and bring in a sewer. That's the reality. So it's $120,000, that's just the way it is. So I see value in this, where it's at, because we own the lot to the south. Again, my questions are, how buildable is it? Because you could do this in 2 phases as you grow. You add dorm rooms onto the north, up to the parking lot. You add offices down below. For law enforcement. Douglas, all of us, why can't we do that? Then, up on the top floor of my dorm rooms, separate shower. Separate bathroom. And we still have this facility that still has life in it. And we sprinkle it, it has to be sprinkled when we remodel it. So, to me, I like the concept of spending $1 million, $1.2 million, if it's approved, and enlarge to the north. Then the second phase could be, okay, once we get easements, if we have to go to the south with apparatus, we can, we have that option because we own it. We have all these parcels here, not back there. So, yeah,
Do we have rights of first refusal from Brandis next door that way?
we have a verbal to let me know. I've been working for 4 years on the building over here to try a storage building back here. I started with RJ and then Matt, and then I mentioned it to Safe Harbor. Safe Harbor had a big fire, and they kind of lost interest in talking about that. But I like the thought of having a satellite station. Do I need to get rid of this and build a new one? Oh, it'd be great to have a new fancy building. I can't get behind it. What I can get behind is give me 3 truck bays south of the bridge. Together. To me, I think that's viable. But I'm not interested in building a $60 million station down south, even though most of our area is down there.
The chief, so we're all clear, I mean. Your vision or your dream would be to have staff and people and collaboration among staffers from different, first responder agencies. Here, so they can collaborate, work together. But it would be useful to be able to pre-position some of the heavier equipment south of the bridge for efficiency's sake. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, 1 medical unit, 1 tanker, water supply issue, and an engine. You just have to have the manpower to get there. So I see a lot of value in that consideration. I'm hoping Rich is gonna say, Greg, come on over, I got 3 truck bays for you. How about that, Rich?
Think about it.
Who do we invoice?
Yes, ma'am.
Just a quick question on page 12, boat maintenance, just curious where things are with the boats. I know you lost one.
Yes,
So where are things at?
the insurance company replaced it, there's one down there, smaller than 2. And then the other one is being sold, it's at Wolf Marine now, there's a contract, and they pay for our boat, so we technically own it, but they pay for all that, so it's sitting on a trailer at Wolf Marine.
So you're good with what you've got? for
Yes,
boat
ma'am.
maintenance?
Yes, ma'am.
So we're all about collaboration, as you can see, and we're all about thinking outside the box to get service to the people that need. And that's kind of what that 0.3 mils is all about. Is doing the best we can with what we have. And then also adding those 3 staff members, which is really important to our staff. We just don't have enough staff, there's no way to do this. other than to add a few people. Nobody lives here anymore. Nobody can afford to live here anymore. Everybody jokes about, well, we have to build the dorm so we can have, our help has someplace to live. Well, we're all done joking. We have to build the dorm so our firefighters have someplace to live while they're here. So, we're gonna do this in steps. The first step is to hire some. Then we'll move on from there. We have people who live in Granville that work at the station. And why is that? I'm not sure why they come all the way here to work, because they could work there. But they do it, so. I guess they like our cooking. I don't know, but. We have to do something for us. We just have to. There's no other way that we can give the service to this community that it needs. Community gets older and older and older. We all know that. I know that. And there's more and more and more demands. Our biggest call is falls now. And nasty falls. Where older people are falling on circular spiral staircases. They're not nice falls, so they're not come and pick you up and put you back in a chair falls anymore. So we have to do this. We just have to.
Yeah, I think Rich had a question.
Okay, Rich, go ahead.
Well, my question was actually related to that. Where will you pull 3 additional firefighters from? What's your furthest out pull for additional staffing?
So we would post it internally. I believe in each serve the community before should have a little preference, and we will put that in we have before. So last time I hired a full-time person, I had 7 great candidates. So I anticipate I will have that here. However, I don't know. One of them lives in the district, I don't know who will apply this time. I can't legally say, oh, you have to live within a certain distance. So I have to be careful with how we're gonna treat that. But I don't know how that's gonna work out for us as a department. If the person lives in Bloomingdale or lives, how are they gonna come back? It's tough. I mean, right now you got some people 25 minutes out. Well, why do I can't penalize them because they can't live here? The reality is it's a problem. So I predict there'll be probably 5 or 6 applicants internally. And they won't all live right here. Does that?
Yeah, we're seeing the same thing. We're going further and further off with police officers.
May I ask you, Community Douglas, the most profound community, where do your police officers live predominantly?
I would say most of them come from more in the middle of Allegan County, and then we have one that comes from Ada, as far away as Ada. So that's a drive.
I got $1 million house I can sell.
I guess the question, or the answer to that, is why do they want to work here? We need to make it attractive. That's part of the idea of putting quality dorm rooms out there to make sure they want to come here. I mean, we don't want them to sleep in basically a glorified closet up there, which, sorry guys, but we need to make it attractive, and part of that is to pay them also. Right, said $4.50 an hour. Waitress downtown makes a hell of a lot more than that.
And this millage does not address the dorm room. This is about people. Okay, it's an investment in people. That's got to come first. I need people to, there are 3 people at night, Riley, Mike, and Kyle. We're all here. Kyle, yep. Okay, you're so short, I can't see. So when they want to take off, go on vacation, who do they get? And no one. So they're trading with each other. Mike was the one who taught me that. Chief, you realize, I can't even take off. I've got to trade. So then Kyle will do 36 hours in a row. we don't work 12-hour shifts like some agencies. Mike Betts was off, he had done his 24 hours. Mike Betts was the chief cutter on that car accident on Thursday. I did a 16-hour day that day. We don't go home when the shift changes. That's the difference between us and them. And you've got arguably the best crew in Western Michigan sitting right over here.
Chief, Chief, quick question about this staffing issue. Finding people that's a challenge. I don't care what organization you're with these days, finding quality people to fill roles is incredibly difficult. But in my mind, the more important thing is once you get that individuals, how do you keep them? So my question to you is that what, to the question that was just asked, you get people here, what makes them want to work here? And more important, my question is, what makes them want to stay here? Especially if they don't live in the community. And that's understandable why they don't necessarily live in the community, they probably love to. But what would keep them here?
I can answer that. Organization, respect, their time, they get a stipend, but most of this is not about the money. Call volume. I just taught fire academy with Chris. One of my 16-hour days along with him. And when somebody from Overrice said, I want to do calls, I want to learn. Can I sign up? Yeah, yes. They have opportunities and organized training. We're training at least twice a week. Most departments are once a month. The Live Fire Training Center, the chief. I don't know. But what you have are some differences here where you have a camaraderie that is developed by staying together at night. Monday night crew is the cook people, they cook everything. So you have that camaraderie that I underestimated when Captain Betts, Assistant Chief Betts, persuaded me to increase the nightly shifts. And I underestimated that. So you have a real team atmosphere. I remember back in the day, you were just throwing the wolves. Throw the wet stuff on the hot stuff. It's a whole different, you've got a lot of instructors here, you do a lot of call volume. Second in Elgin County, those are differences. And they have a voice.
And there's a great deal of teaching with those. Everything we do, we're teaching somebody how to do something. That's good in the long run. I mean, we do some calls that aren't terribly necessary, but they're always learning something while we're teaching. We teach ladder training, we're just constantly teaching. Which is what people want, I would think, back there.
Well, part of it is because of all you, that we have quality equipment also, you're not working with junk. So it's a good place to work.
Right, yeah. Okay, anybody else? Any more questions?
Thank you all for
No
coming.
more hot seat for me, I can sit down.
I would just like to say it's been very nice to be here and meet your staff and be here with everyone else too. I think we could stay and talk about what you do for a long time because it's very exciting and I think we're all very much engaged in what you do and the community treasures what you do. And I personally am not here to question your expertise in telling us what you need for staffing. I support that. And so I just want you to know that.
Thank you.
Okay, with no more questions, thank you for coming. If you want to talk to any of the guys afterwards, they'll be glad to answer any questions you might have or show you any equipment we might have. If you haven't seen the live fire training center in the back, it's very interesting. I'm sure somebody will tell you about it and ask. But that's where they do training, actual fires.
Dana, didn't realize you were wrapping up so soon. I have one other question or comment. But those guys work their tails off. And what was not mentioned here today is the mental health of them. And it's something we have to consider. We can't keep on overworking these people. I don't know how they go home after that accident on Thursday. I'm a salesman, I go home and I don't get the sale, I kick the dog. These guys have to live with what they saw out there. And they need time off to get mentally back into it. Just my 2 cents there. By the way, I don't have a dog.
Yeah.
Never mind.
So I guess if nobody else has any questions, I think the township's gonna meet right now. They call it a special meeting, so you can circle up over there and meet. And hopefully you'll vote on this at your next meeting.
Thank you. Good job.
On behalf of the firefighters, thank you for being here. Thank you.